On today's show, Michigan man shines against his hometown team. Josh Norris scores twice. Senators beat the Wings 2-1. We'll look back at that performance.
And we'll look ahead to this weekend where the Ottawa Senators have two home games up against the Nashville Predators and the New York Islanders.
Plus, an NHL captain could be on the move as soon as today. And just yesterday, Elliot Friedman said that team and the Senators had been in talks.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can get started with a big return on FanDuel. New customers who place a $5 bet and win will get started with $150 in bonus bets, visiting FanDuel.com to get started. Today is Friday, December 6th, and what a curveball heading into the weekend with Jacob Trouba on the trade block. It could be imminent. We'll have that conversation in the second segment, but Pilsy, Ottawa Senators 2, Detroit Red Wings 1, and for the first time this season, the Sens win a game without even scoring 3 goals.
Yeah, it's nice to get one of those, Ross, and Allmark was pretty good. Like, he didn't steal this win by any means, only faced 20 shots, but he stood tall when he had to, and Josh Norris, the Michigan man, makes it count back up against his home state. So 2 goals for Norris, and this one's wrapped up in regulation, might I add.
That's why, hey, they didn't score 3, but it took them every minute to get to 2. 41 seconds left. Josh Norris puts this one away. I thought he had a whale of a game overall. That line with Brady Tkachuk, Drake Batherson, who sneaky, we haven't even mentioned this, Pilsy. You know, we've got an 8-game point streak riding right now for Drake Batherson.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned in the postcast. Like, sneaky, he's having such a great offensive season, and he's been so consistent all year. So, although I didn't know that, that doesn't really surprise me.
No, he's been awesome. What do you think about that line? Is that something you keep together? Because we've had people in the postcast comments as well, and fairly so, saying, look, we like that Norris, Tkachuk, Batherson line, but Tim Stützle is not necessarily playing with the guys he should be when that's the case.
And that seems to be the case with any lineup decision they make this year, Ross. Like, it's like, okay, we're trying to get these lines going, so we're going to break up what's working to do that, whether it's on defense or offense. And yeah, I do like that line, obviously, of Brady, Norris, and Batherson. But having Ridley Gregg as one of Timmy's line mates, I don't know. I guess the spin zone argument to that would be, Ross, that Tim Stützle is so good that he can have lesser offensively talented line mates and he can still thrive. But you got to give, and Claude Giroux, I think him and Timmy work well together, but they need another person on that line that can put the puck in the back of the net, because Timmy is allergic to shooting the puck. Claude Giroux doesn't have that same scoring touch that he once had. And Ridley Gregg, I mean, he's not a guy that you're looking to finish a play that Tim Stützle starts. So I still think they should bring Adam Gaudette back up there and have him playing on a line with Timmy. But
I got a different idea.
Let's hear it.
I'm going with something that's never been done.
Oh.
Pilsy, you had some great notes on this too. It was Jack's final standout. Shane Pinto has done everything but score now in the last 2 games.
Yep.
Put him up there with Stützle and with Claude Giroux. That way it's a win-win, because then Ridley Gregg moves back to center where he's just shown so much more comfortability. And I think that you're looking at a little bit more spread out offense if you make that move. I don't think they will. I think Travis Green is very consistent and firm that Shane Pinto is a centerman on this team, but they've already moved 2 centermen to the wing to play with Timmy, with the Gaudette and with Ridley Gregg. So why not just try it? Because you can tell Shane Pinto is knocking at the door, and I think if he's put in the right situation, this could be a big weekend for number 12, formerly 57.
Yeah, well, is David Prom back yet? But that's the thing though, Ross. Like, why not just put Gaudette back up there? Like, why go to something as drastic as moving Pinto off of center, where, as far as I remember, Pinto hasn't played a second of wing in the NHL, has he?
No, but he has played with Timmy. Right when he signed, it was, I believe, Tim Stützle,
Yes, but
Shane
he was
Pinto,
the centerman.
and Connor Brown was the winger on that line.
Yeah, nice little line there. But I don't understand why Adam Gaudette was demoted like that. At the very least, Adam Gaudette should be on the third line. Like, you're trying to get that third line going. You want to get Pinto going, Ross? Give him Adam Gaudette on his line instead of Michael Amadio or Nick Cousins. Like, it's crazy to me that those are the two guys that get that third line opportunity, where Adam Gaudette with 12 goals is stuck with only like 8 minutes a night.
Yeah, 8 minutes on the dot last night for Adam Gaudette, which was especially surprising for me, Pilsy, considering that this team had 5 power plays in the game.
Yeah.
And looking at the numbers, he played 2 minutes and 23 seconds on the power play, which means only 5 minutes and 37 seconds at even strength. To be fair, there wasn't a whole lot of even strength in this third period. It was as discombobulated.
Well, there was quite a bit of 4-on-4, actually.
Decent amount of 4-on-4.
Yeah.
So I guess that would count as even strength, but it was just so... What a way to slow down the pace of a game that had a lot of it in the first 2 periods.
Yeah, the refs were just like... At a balloon party, Ross, they had a needle, and anytime the Red Wings or Senators got some air in their balloon, the refs just like, nope, boop, pop. And then it was, okay, we got a power play, we got some momentum. Nope, canceled power play. It's now 4-4. Okay, we're going to get the power play after this 4-4. Nope, another penalty. That's going to be back to 4-4. Like, it was bizarre for sure. And for this to only be a 2-1 game when there was so many special teams opportunities was kind of crazy, actually.
Oh, it certainly was. What also was crazy, and I hope everyone inside enjoyed that, is with 1 minute left in the game, you're like, okay. And they had the conversation on the broadcast. Do you care about going to overtime this early in the season with a divisional opponent? Of course, when you're going against Anaheim, let's say, makes sense, last game.
Yep.
You're like, okay, let's just take this one to OT. Even Ottawa did that with Philly, right?
Yep.
But that was them on their heels after allowing those 2 goals.
Being like, we have to get a point no matter what. Yeah.
Yeah, so different circumstances. This one, just like the Anaheim game, had been tied for a number of minutes going into that last stretch. But the way that Ottawa was pushing, and the Drake Batherson back check, and then making a play in the neutral zone, and Josh Norris finishing it for his second goal of the game, all that just should is the key word, give you so much momentum and feel good energy heading into 2 more games at home this weekend. Like, they're still 2 and 3 in their last 5 home games, right? And it could be even worse if you extend back after. That last homestand was just so disastrous that this hasn't made up for it yet. And I hope that's also the message in the room too. You were at 500 and then a game above 500 for quite a while early in the season. And now it's been like you're 2 games back, you're 1 game back, you're 2. So you're back to 1 game back of 500. It is a low bar. That's not the ultimate goal, but you got to get there first. So tomorrow, very important against the Nashville Predators. And then a team you're chasing right behind them. You've got 2 more wins than the New York Islanders, but you're still behind them in the standings. So that's going to be some critical points on the board on Sunday. And Pilsy's got a note later in the show about who the starting goalie for the New York Islanders could be, a hashtag Sens abroad. On the other side, the news of the day, Jacob Trouba could even be on waivers today. The captain of the New York Rangers, who makes $8 million per season this year and next year. If a trade doesn't happen today, when you're listening to this, he might be on waivers. We'll have that conversation after a quick word. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You guys know that FanDuel is the official online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network, and it's also North America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out all the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you placed your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today, and you can get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com.
All right, Pilsy. So the Ottawa Senators are 3-1-1 in their last 5 games and have jumped the Detroit Red Wings in the standings. They'll have an opportunity this weekend to make up more ground with 2 more games, both at home and both. We've got a GCP shuttle. The one on Saturday already sold out, so get your ticket for Sunday before you miss that one as well. You can get your GLEBE Central Pub tickets online, GLEBECentralPub.com. The Ottawa Senators have been rumored to be in conversation with the New York Rangers about a trade. No word on who those players involved could be. The Senators organization making it very clear that if any word gets out, there's going to be problems. But that hasn't stopped the New York Rangers from looking at one part of their roster in particular, their captain, Jacob Trouba, who has 6 assists this season, no goals in 24 games. Last year, 22 points in 69 games. That is well below his average of about 38 to 40 in his career before that. What are your thoughts on A, Jacob Trouba as a player, and B, how the Rangers have handled this situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's been tough for the Rangers here, as that's a franchise that has much higher expectations of where they're at. Now, they're still in a wild card spot, 3 points ahead of the Ottawa Senators. But to have this much turmoil among your biggest players like Trouba, Kreider, Zibanejad, obviously not having a great season. Shesterkin has really struggled lately. Like, this team's in a tough spot. And to be in a position where you're contemplating putting your captain on waivers to try to get him to waive a no move clause is wild. And especially, Ross, the rumors are really flying out today as Elliot Friedman reported that one of the teams involved in the trade talks might be the Columbus Blue Jackets. Like you mentioned, the Ottawa Senators and the New York Rangers have been tied together for a little bit here. My thoughts on Trouba as a player is I think he's a good bottom 4 defenseman. But the issue is, this is a guy making $8 million this year and next year. Like that, I like his style of game, and I could see how he would fit on this team and maybe even a good partner for Jake Sanderson. But the money just makes absolutely no sense to me. And I don't think the Rangers are going to be willing to retain much on salary here.
No, I just think that this is something the Ottawa Senators have to stay out of.
Yeah.
I probably like him more than the average fan. I think that he would be good in a less under the microscope position than the captain of an original 6 team in the New York Rangers. I know that his reputation here in Winnipeg was a lot different than it is in New York. It seems like he's gotten his elbows up a couple too many times, and he's had the ire of player safety in the past, and that obviously rubs fans the wrong way, and other players, of course, who don't want to go out there and take headshots. But I think that in terms of a right shot defenseman, the proper age, but the bottom line is Jacob Trouba is not coming to Canada, let alone Ottawa. The main reason he asked for a trade from Winnipeg was because his wife's a doctor and the opportunities were more plentiful for her in the United States. He's got a modified 15-team no-trade clause, and I would bet, name your bet, that all of the Canadian teams are on that list.
Well, Ross, you just did a Global News Winnipeg report about doctors and hospitals in Winnipeg. They could probably use a couple more doctors. Bring Mrs. Trouba back.
They could have, yeah. Mrs. Trouba, let's go. Here we go. I don't think the Jets even need him. They're happy with their return. in that trade. Neil
Big
Pionk's looking like a pretty good player now in terms of what he brings. And they got a first-round pick out of that trade that became Brad Lambert, if I'm not mistaken. So that worked out just fine for them. But for Columbus, like, they're a team that's overachieving this year based on their roster. They've got that long-term injury for Seth Jones. He's not in the lineup right now. So Dante Fabro, a waiver claim, is their top
Seth
right
Jones for Columbus?
Oh, my bad.
You're a couple years behind here. Ross.
I know. I always think of him and Werenski as a pair. Dash one, Friday for me. We're live to tape. It's all good. Hey, I was right on this, though. Dante Fabro, top
We're
right shot
live to tape.
defenseman. What?
That's such a news anchor term.
We're live to tape. Hey, no redos on this show. Awesome.
But like Columbus,
hey, they could really use. Are they interested in Seth Jones?
Yeah, that's what we should be starting here, Ross. Are the Columbus Blue Jackets in on Seth Jones?
Some people are saying that Seth Jones to Columbus.
They did just trade away a right shot defenseman, though, and David Yurchek. Now, obviously, two very different players. You're looking at a green banana and then a yellow banana with a couple brown spots on it in Trouba. But I think that's a team where they could really use kind of a injection of the management being like, we see what you guys are doing and that you're over exceeding expectations. We're going to give you some help. We're going to give you some reinforcements and bring in a veteran defenseman. So from the Columbus Blue Jackets standpoint, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we'll see where Jacob Trouba ends up. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on Jacob Trouba as a player, if he is the type of player that the Sens should be interested in. But of course, it all hinges on even whether he'd want to come to Canada, let alone what's going to go back the other way, which doesn't honestly sound like it's going to be that much if he's going to be put on waivers otherwise.
No. Especially if there's no retention. Like, I think the salary retention will determine how this trade goes.
I still just can't believe how much turmoil the New York Rangers are.
Yeah.
Yet they're still in a playoff spot.
Yeah, but I mean, in a playoff spot is tough when there's so many teams that are just a few. Like, Ross, there's a 3-point spread between being in a wild card spot and being the second worst team in the conference.
Well,
like,
second worst team in the conference couldn't be us.
That's the Detroit Red Wings. Those guys,
yeah, it is the Detroit Red Wings.
Bums, absolute losers. But that's the thing, Ross. I think New York is like, we got to stop the bleeding now before this gets away from us. Because I think they're a team and a franchise that's like, hey, if we get into the playoffs, we have the right pieces to be successful in the playoffs. But now they're like, we're not sure if we're even going to get there.
Well, they've also lost 6 of their last 7 games. They've been outscored 29-15 in their last 6 games.
Things are been bad.
Not going well for the New York Rangers. They also are in a stretch with 3 full days off between games. They're back in action, though, tonight. So kind of interesting that they've had all this time without a game, and then the day that that they are playing, it's like, all right, we better actually do something now. And they put Barclay Gaudreau on waivers as well in the summer. That's a cutthroat organization over there, the New York Rangers. Over here, we're looking at a weekend preview. Nashville Predators and the New York Islanders coming to town. We'll get into what that weekend looks like for the Ottawa Senators. Full previews coming up next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. All right, Pilsy, we are back-to-back this weekend, just like last. Your team every day here on the Locked On Senators podcast, where we are on a stretch of 20 straight days with a new episode of the LOSP. So, Nashville tomorrow, 7 o'clock puck drop at the Canadian Tire Center. The Ottawa Senators, first of 2 meetings against the Predators this season. And they're a team that I think is the definition of underperforming.
Yeah, I think I'm with the rest of the hockey world here that's just baffled that Nashville is having this much of a struggle. Sure, anytime you bring in a lot of new veteran talents, especially free agents. Free agents are tricky. They can be overpaid, and sometimes you start to see, hey, it's kind of crazy that a team just let this player walk away for nothing. And then you start realizing maybe there was a reason they did that. Now, I'm not suggesting that's the case for any of the Nashville players, but sometimes that can be. And this is a team, Ross, that they've got a good lineup. They've got depth. They've got offensive players up front. They've got great defensive players on the back end. They've got a great goalie in UC Saros. So it's kind of crazy that they're this low in the league. But one thing that Nashville excels at, and not only excels, is literally the best at, is the penalty kill. 87.5%. Ironically, Ross, the New York Rangers are second best in the league at 85.7%. And it's not even like the Nashville Predators have a good penalty kill because they don't get penalized a lot. They're sixth in the NHL in most times shorthanded with 88 times. So, like, they're having a battle on PK and they're able to keep the puck out. The issue is, Ross, they're one of the worst teams at putting the puck in the net, just in general. Like, goals for per game, the Nashville Predators are last in the league, actually, at 2.22 goals per game. So unless UC Saros is amazing and the penalty kill is perfect, this team simply is not putting up enough goals to have success.
They scored 0 goals last night. Another team coming to Ottawa off of a shutout loss. The Preds fell 3-0 to the Montreal Canadiens last night. We're expecting them to look kind of like this. Steven Stamkos is the top-line center on this team. Felt like he had moved to wing for the last couple of years in Tampa, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Stamkos with Philip Forsberg and Gustav Nyquist. You got Mark Jankowski with Zachary Leroux and Jonathan Marchessault. Fedor Svechkov with Juuso Parssinen and Luke Evangelista. And Michael McCarron with Cole Smith and Colton Sissons. Can we just pause for a second? Like, that's not even that good on paper, despite all of the free agents they went out and got.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. I kind of had the same reaction. Now, Ryan O'Reilly's out. He's a big part of that team. But, yeah, the center depth on this team is very lacking.
Fedor Svechkov was a guy we liked in the draft process during his year, but I don't think that's moving the needle a whole lot at the NHL level right now. On defense, Roman Josi, always an absolute star. He's with Alexandre Carrier. You've got Brady Shea with Nick Blankenberg and Adam Wilsby with Luke Shen. Now, it was Justus Annunen against Montreal, so the Senators will be going up against a rested UC Saros.
Yep.
And that's probably the best thing I can say about the Preds' chances of having a great outcome in Ottawa. I think this is about as must-win of a Western Conference opponent as you can get. You can't be the ones to let the Nashville Predators off the mat. They have had just a disastrous season. They have 7 wins in 27 games, Pilsy. Like, not tonight, not tomorrow for the Nashville Predators. Has to be the thought process inside the Senators' room.
And Ross, ironically, both the teams that are coming to Ottawa this weekend, the Nashville Predators and the New York Islanders, are overtime loss merchants. The Nashville Predators, I counted it up. They have 6 overtime losses, Ross. All of them a 3-2 overtime loss score.
Amazing.
And then you look at the Islanders, the overtime loss merchants of the new era of the NHL. Like, these are teams that are just scraping by, Ross, but they don't have enough to get over the edge. And you're hoping that Ottawa can at least hang with them and then be like every other opponent they have and put in that final nail in the coffin, whether it's overtime or beating them in regulation, because these are beatable teams for the Ottawa Senators. And when you're at home chasing a wild card spot like this, you cannot let the opportunities to beat beatable teams slip away from you.
And note the start time on Sunday against the New York Islanders, 5 o'clock Ottawa time. That means the GLEBE Central Pub shuttle leaves at 3:45. Get your tickets, GLEBECentralPub.com. The New York Islanders, they've got a decent lineup, honestly, on paper. I think it's better than people give them credit for.
But they've got some injuries, Ross.
They do. Bo Horvat is centering the top line with Anders Lee and Simon Holmstrom. You've got Brock Nelson with Pierre Engvall and Kyle Palmieri. You've got Jean-Gabriel Pageau with Maxine Tsiplikov and Oliver Wahlstrom. The fourth line, Casey Cizikas, Kyle McLean, and Hudson Fashing. On the back end, Alexander Romanov with Ryan Pulock, Isaiah George with Noah Dobson, and Grant Hutton with Scott Mayfield. And the Islanders do play Saturday night, Pilsy. What does that mean going forward?
Well, as of today, Semyon Varlamov is day-to-day. I don't think he's going to be back in time this weekend. So it looks like the Islanders are going to have Sorokin, and they play the Carolina Hurricanes on Saturday. So that's a game where you probably want your best goalie available. So I assume Sorokin will play. And then their third-string goalie is none other than our guy, Sens abroad, Marcus Hogberg. So the Ottawa Senators could have an opportunity to go up against the New York Islanders, not only on the second half of a back-to-back, which the Sens are also.
And they'll be tired because they're going to play overtime the night before.
Yeah, true. Extra hard. Well, up against the Hurricanes, probably not, Ross.
Nah.
But not only that, you got some injuries in Barzell, no Duclair, no Pelech. So huge holes in that Islanders lineup. And you could get a Marcus Hogberg start from them. So the opportunities are here. And the New York Islanders, Ross, sometimes you wonder like how are teams struggling this much? Well, with the Islanders, I can tell you special teams is a big reason why they're struggling. They're 31st in the league in power play percentage, 11.8%. So clearly struggling. Usually there's some, at least when your PK or power play rather is that bad, your penalty kill can kind of bring things up. No, not for the New York Islanders. They are 32nd in the league, literally worst, even worse than the Detroit Red Wings, Ross, because Detroit Red Wings went 5 for 5 on the penalty kill last night. The Islanders have a 66.7% penalty kill. So this team just cannot get anything done on the man advantage, whether it's stopping teams or scoring for themselves. Very, very beatable team, in my opinion.
They are, but they also have the most important position in hockey down pat. At 5-on-5, the Islanders have a team save percentage of .927. That is sixth best in the National Hockey League.
Do you have Marcus Hogberg's 5-on-5 save percentage in front of you?
No, I don't.
So we'll see if that changes things.
I actually do. It's 1,000. He hasn't let in a goal yet this year in 16 minutes and 24 seconds.
Crap. So he's due to let in some goals. Yeah,
he's perfect. Well, 11 for 11.
All jokes aside, though, Marcus Hogberg, that's going back to making sense of the Sens days. I interviewed him in the Brampton Beast arena of the East Coast Hockey League. I don't know that we're talking like 6 years ago, I think, because that team has folded a long time ago. So just crazy to see things go full circle here for Hogberg if he does get the start, but I anticipate he will.
Speaking about minor league hockey, if you are at home or have AHL TV tonight, you can tune in. I will be on the call with David Foote for the Belleville Senators game against the Manitoba Moose. Wyatt Bongiovanni revenge game tonight. And looking at Belleville real quick, like I like where they're at. I know they've had a few shootout, a few overtime losses early on in the season, but 9 wins. Plus 4 games where you get a point. They've only got 4 regulation losses in 17 games. So Levi Merlainen is back. He was fantastic in a shutout performance in his last game. I'm feeling good about this weekend. I think the Belleville Sens could do some damage here. And a player I'm going to be watching very closely is Tyler Boucher. And I know the points aren't there, but I've had 2 people now tell me that, hey, the points are there, but he looks a lot better and more comfortable. So I'll have a Tyler Boucher report for you on Monday.
Look forward to that. We're hoping Boucher can get things going here. And Ross, it's nice that they're in Winnipeg up against the Manitoba Moose. That is a team that's struggling right now. They are last in their division. They have a 6-11 record, and in their last 10, they're 3-7. So like, you want to rack home some points to try to cover some ground on a tough division in the AHL, go beat the wheels off bad teams on the road and come back with 4 points in your pocket.
Very well said. Any final thoughts on today's show, Pilsy?
Final thoughts for me was thank you to the Ottawa Senators for winning that game last night.
In regulation.
In regulation especially. But I said it on the postcast, like the vibe of the postcast, if that game went the other way and the Red Wings were able to pull out a win, I would have been in shambles. I would have been so sad. We couldn't have done the pizza cast. You want to win the nights where you honor players. So I'm just so relieved that they got that win and we don't have to wallow in that, and we can revel in the beautiful feeling of cold leftover pizza.
And if you want to relive last night's win, that postcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. We'll be back for the postcast tomorrow night after the Senators take on the big bad Nashville Predators, who have 7 wins in 27 games. We will get to that tomorrow. Thank you for joining us today. Have a great start to your weekend. Thank you for watching, listening, and engaging with the show. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.